So much can happen over a cup of coffee. Conversations are sparked up, common interests are discovered, love blooms, marriage comes soon, children mushroom, and before you know it, you're an angry housewife surrounded by 8 screaming children. And it all started with a cup of coffee.
Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating. Nonetheless, coffee forms the seat of many life-changing events. Whether it's meeting your future spouse over a cup of coffee or discussing ideas that could change the world over a cup of coffee. Well, I was off to Cafe Mercara, the coffee shop in the Chola Sheraton Hotel, for the coffee house experience.
Cafe Mercara is the cafe at the Chola Sheraton. So located by the poolside. We serve a variety of teas and coffees worldwide. Our short bites do include the pastries. We have quiche, pies, and of course the tarts.
Cafe Mercara. You know, my forefathers from Coorg would be proud that I'm sitting in a coffee shop named after our capital city. And I'm loving the atmosphere. It is beautiful. It's small but bright with a Parisian or European air about it. But surprisingly, no coffees from Coorg.
Nonetheless, Cafe Mercara's selection of caffeine in a cup was extensive and exotic. Traditional coffees, world coffees, cold coffees, dessert coffees, coffees with a splash of sin. I thought I'd start with a cup of Jamaican Blue Mountain, one of the most expensive coffees in the world. The bean also forms the base for the coffee liqueur Tia Maria. Coffee cultivation first originated in Ethiopia in around 850 AD. The 2 main types of coffee beans today are Arabica and Robusta, which comprise around 90% of the coffee sold worldwide. Arabica generally produces higher quality, while Robusta is more economic.
Another coffee plus point. Grabbing a cup of coffee makes the perfect first date. Dinner? Too serious, formal, intimidating. A movie? Cliched. But a cup of coffee. It's cool, it's casual, not to mention the caffeine kick you get out of it. And plus, if your date is going awful, I mean, you don't have to sit through an entire meal before making your escape. Just chug your coffee and run.
My coffee was oh so aromatic, rich and full-bodied, and something that tasted just a bit fruity to me. My open sandwich, a European concept, was dry and unimpressive, but the chicken tikka croissant sandwich was a lovely example of East colliding with West. A flaky croissant, crunchy veggies stuffed with tender tikka spiced chicken. Next, I decided to try a Cafe Conquistador, a cappuccino with Kahlua, whipped cream, and shaved chocolate. A Cafe Freddo, or iced espresso, and a Kyoki coffee with brandy and Kahlua. Now the Kyoki coffee was a bit too sinful for me, too much brandy for such a little cup. I prefer the traditional coffees over and above the fancier sounding ones on the menu.
Now, coffee is also essential to Italian culture. An espresso is consumed at any time of day, before lunch, after a meal, in between meals. But one thing to remember is you do have to drink your espresso in 1 sip, 2 sips max. And another thing, if you're in Italy and you order a cappuccino after 11:30 a.m., you will be laughed at.
Coffee houses in Europe during the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries were also the seat of intellectual and political activity, with intellectuals and artists brewing up ideas, the precursor to early modern revolutions. In fact, according to historians, English coffee houses during the 18th and 19th century are linked with the Age of Enlightenment.
Isaac Newton himself dedicated a lot of his time to discussing his theories in the Grecian Coffee House of London. As I said before, a lot can happen over a cup of coffee.
Come on now, although they're called coffee houses, we can't neglect the teas. Flip the menu and Cafe Mercara's equally extensive selection of fine teas appears.
Okay, so I've decided to do a little tea sampling, a spot of every type of tea, and we shall have ourselves a tea party.
I selected the oolong tea, a fine, expensive Chinese tea, the leaves of which must be processed directly after picking. White tea, a specialty of the Chinese province Fujian, containing buds and young tea leaves. Darjeeling summer tip, produced in the early summer and called the champagne of teas. And finally, Assam gold tip, a fine black tea from the world's largest tea growing area.
So the oolong tea has a very earthy, almost grassy kind of a taste, like the smell of wet grass after it rains, that kind of thing. And the white tea doesn't really have that. It's flavorful, it's aromatic, but it doesn't have that grassy, wet grassy kind of taste. Now, unlike the fever-stimulated discussions of the coffee houses of Europe, I associate tea culture, specifically Japanese tea culture, with a more meditative, calm sort of Eastern mind. Now, do you think this is a reflection of the substances they were drinking?
Maybe, maybe not. Nonetheless, many parts of the world have unique tea customs and preparations. From the Japanese tea ceremony to the yum cha rituals in China, the eating of tea leaves in Myanmar, to the traditional green tea and mint preparation of Morocco. To complete my little tea party, I threw in a lemon tots and an espresso double chocolate cheesecake. Compared to the food, coffees, and teas, however, the desserts were nothing to write home about.
Well, Cafe Mercara has a lovely atmosphere with an extensive variety of fine coffees and exotic teas. It's a lovely little place to just sit down and chat, read or write while sipping upon a cup of your favorite brew. Because as we said before, a lot can happen over a cup of coffee, or tea for that matter.